I must say, I thought you guys were going to be relatively excited to come back for some NHL videos. I was like, I really feel like they want to come back. In no way, shape, or form did I think you guys were, I believe the saying is champing at the bit, but everyone says chomping at the bit, so I'm just going to go forward with the common misconception. Everyone was chomping at the bit. I think of like a Pac-Man character, like arf, 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 chomping at the bit to get back to these NHL videos. So much to the point. Remember yesterday I wondered, like, I guess I want to see how long it takes me to dogfight my way back up to the top of the YouTube algorithm. And it took all of half of one day because of you fine folks. You guys littered the comments, and not with like fake bot comments, like just commenting because you asked. You guys seemed generally and genuinely excited to get back into the NHL game. Hey, that makes me a little proud because, I mean, let's be honest here. This is the fourth of the four major sports, and I might even put it behind something like UFC. So to see everybody get so excited for the NHL, I don't know, that brings a smile to my Harvey Dent face. I really do think that that's great. And some of the comments that I read down there are just straight up hysterical. I need to start reading some of these. Look at this one right here. The nose is long and the nose is wide, but furthermore, the nose is wise. And then you got this, sniff me all night long. I was thinking about people who don't know what that song is, and you didn't even include any music notes or anything like that. But I knew exactly, as soon as I read that, I heard sniff me all night long. Some of those, man, they're hysterical. I need to start showing some of these more because if you know I'm a fan of creativity and stuff like that. So when I see good ones out there, I got to remember to draw some attention to it. So thank you guys so much. It seemed like you were thrilled to start the day. And then definitely by like 8 o'clock, you guys were even more than thrilled because you probably watched that first game and you're like, ho, 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 saddle up. We got those Tampa Bay Lightning, but even more so, just perfectly talked about all the penalties that were going to be called, how lethal the Lightning's power play is, and it doesn't need all these games to get back into midseason form because they've played together for years. The removal of Killorn, the insertion of Paul, who ended up having 2 goals. That was great across the board. But then, just like they ended Pittsburgh's season, they're starting it right on that same rotten note. The Pittsburgh Penguins, those old-ass Kardashians, lost on opening night to the Chicago Blackhawks, who were able to get the Connor Bedard over 2.5 shots on goal. And if you need a bet for this video, you better go run and take that again before they change that to 3.5 for tonight, because he was shooting everything under the sun like I thought he would. Not any into the net, but he was fire. He almost got one with a nice level stick. You saw that when he dragged it in under the stick, and then the goalie just got a piece of it. He was looking pretty good. The third hottest bottle girl had great chances. Everything that I thought that I would see from him. Top minutes, top power play, had a few chances, didn't cash in. And that game just was a little askew, unfortunately. Then in that later game, Barbashev scored, and you come here, you get the sniffs that not only are you not getting on many other channels, the sportsbook won't even put them. Many sportsbooks didn't have Nick Paul. Many sportsbooks didn't have Ivan Barbashev. You come here for the deep sniffs, and that's what I was able to provide yesterday, but we will look forward to today. I already saw that, somebody, when I'm looking for those trickle downs, you see Boston is playing Chicago tonight, the very next night that Chicago just played, and we have another situation. You want to see a random ass guy on the top line? James Van Riemsdyk inserted into Boston. He's playing on that top line. Can't even find him out there for over or under on point totals. Maybe they'll add it, but I didn't see it. But it doesn't matter because I got another player for you. I don't know, maybe they have it on one of those wacky ass sports books, but that's not what we're focused on. We're focused on legitimate sports books like Bet365, who's going to give you that great promotion. You didn't bet last night? That's fine. Go to Bet365, deposit $10, bet $5, and then they're going to give you $150 in free bet credits. As long as you're over 21, and you're a new user on the platform, except for that one state that I think you could just be 20. I need to know. I got to go read up on that. How did they bypass that? And are 20-year-olds loving life? Are 20-year-olds from the next state just going over there betting and then coming right back? I'm going to look into that one of these days. But you got to be over 21 almost everywhere. And if you do have a gambling problem, or anybody you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text 1-800. So if you're 55, call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you're 25, text 1-800-GAMBLER. So the Blackhawks opened up with a scam win. But as I told you guys last year, what is the opening month? I saw it in the comments yesterday. Somebody talked about, I can't wait to watch fake hockey for the first month or so. That's what you get. You get that all the time. Once again, every single year, Toronto opens up against the Canadiens. It's like when the Giants playing the Cowboys. Every year of my life, week 1 on Sunday nights, I got to watch the Cowboys play the Giants. And it feels like the NHL's version of that is Toronto-Montreal opening night. I got to watch these damn teams play opening night every single year, or even if it's not opening night, it's the first matchup for each team in the season. We had it last year, and I said, if I'm taking the Canadiens, if I'm betting anyone, because this is when you get fake hockey, not to mention the fact that Toronto played poorly. Remember last year, we would never take them when they were playing lowly competition. But then when they played a team that was like a supposed, one of the playoff level teams, they'd come out and massacre them. So like they would lose to the Blackhawks and then come out and like crush some team who was at the top of the standings or something like that. But even all that aside, opening night, throw all that out the window, especially when you're like this rivalry, Toronto-Montreal. These games get very ruckusy. So if I was going to take anything in that, it's just going to be that over 6.5. What will play into that is the same thing that played into the Lightning, a lethal Toronto power play. You're seeing penalties all over the place in all 3 of those games. You're going to get that all throughout the first week or 2 of the season. So there should be goals. I'm very, you guys know me. Later in the year, I typically say suckers bet overs. But early in the year, quite the opposite, with all the penalties being, dished out and just goaltenders not in their best form. I don't mind overs whatsoever. This is one that could potentially be an over. But let me go back to that Boston-Chicago game. You guys know how I like to exact revenge on teams. Like just on Sunday, Calvin Ridley screwed me 2 weeks ago. I went right back to him and I made him pay me for last week, and I took him on the alternate over 90 yards and give me even more. So he had to pay me interest on that loss. Am I going to do that for Chicago? It's almost not even worth it. There's such big underdogs in this game. But I'm just going to look at the game as a whole, and I'm going to find a couple little pieces in there, little sliding pieces. Now, I didn't see the over on 0.5 point for James Van Riemsdyk. Like, we probably would have got a great price on that. He's been elevated to the top line and top power play, but he ain't the only one. Boston Bruins lost their top 2 centers, the classics. Krejci, Bergeron retired. They're off the team. They still have a good amount of players. They lost a lot of quality players. But when I'm looking at that top line, I want to see who is centering Pastrnak, and is that guy on Pasternak's power play as well? Oh, yes, he is. Give me Pavel Zacha to register a point. I like that. A full game with Pastrnak, power plays with Pastrnak. They're calling penalties. I like Zacha to register a point. And like I told you, run for the hills. Hopefully it's still 2.5. Go get the over 2.5 on Connor Bedard, because he's firing everything under the sun towards the net. So if you want to do all 3 together, you want to do a same game parlay with Boston to win and the over 2.5 shots on goal for Bedard and over 0.5 point for Zacha. You can do all that, or anyone in there, especially those 2 player props. Now, moving on from there, we have a player that I like to register a point in the Winnipeg Calgary game. This game's going to be taking place in Calgary. Calgary fired Sutter, the defensive coach who everyone seemed to hate. People were withdrawing trade requests once they fired him. And the guy that he really hated, he was like the face of Sutter's shackles. They wouldn't use him in the shootout, many overtime situations. Now, I always thought this guy was overrated. I thought that Barkov was responsible for that massive contract he got from Calgary. But Jonathan Huberdeau had a very lackluster year last year. Is he as good as the Florida version? I think he's somewhere in the middle. He's a pretty to very good player. He's going to be on the top line with the freedom to operate and float, be more of a floater and not a part of a rigid structure. And he'll be working the point on the top power play unit. Like I told you guys yesterday, I'm not concerned about someone like Hellebuck this early in the year. I'm not concerned about any goalies this early in the year. Give me Jonathan Huberdeau to register a point against the Winnipeg Jets. Now, I'm going to look at a team that, if you went to my YouTube page, I did a season-long video last Friday just talking about the season as a whole. And I said I have high hopes for the Edmonton Oilers. Ever since they made that trade, they shipped out Barry and then brought in Ekholm. But more importantly, they put Evan Bouchard at the top of that power play. It was the best power play in the history of hockey. It was unstoppable, and they really only had it from like the trade deadline on because they were still using Barry in that position. But Bouchard has a rocket, and there were just too many options. It was borderline unstoppable, even in the playoffs where the refs let a little more go. It was something to see. And then also the way they took that playoff loss and came together. They showed up to camp early. They have all the makings of a team that really wants to win that number 1 seed, because 2 years in a row they were eliminated by a team with home ice. Last year in round 2 against Vegas, who was the 1 seed. The year before that in the conference finals, getting waxed by Colorado, who was the 1 seed. Something tells me they're going to be pushing hard for the 1 seed in the West, and that means coming out on the right foot. I'm going to take Edmonton to win, but I will tell you this. That is a terrifying line. That's a terrifying line. Why is it so? You know, this is maybe just the NFL rat thinker in me. Why the hell is that only minus 165? Vancouver, they're jackals out there. They don't play good defense. We don't know what we're going to get from them. They're capable of coming out and getting blown out or playing pretty well, but I feel like 2 months from now, this line would have been minus 185, minus 190 or something like that. Everyone's jumping on it. That does scare me a little, but if you don't want to take Edmonton, like I said, I do like Evan Bouchard, who's going to be operating the top of that legendary power play. He's always a great play where you don't have to go into this, I need 4 points just to make money. Usually that's what you need to do with McDavid or Draisaitl. So I'll take Evan Bouchard in that game. I'm going to reintroduce something that, remember this old favorite of mine? Teams to score 2+. I'm going to give you 2 games. The Colorado Kings game, both teams are going to score 2+. And then that Edmonton game, the one that I was just talking about, Edmonton versus Vancouver, both teams to score 2+. You wouldn't think this, but you put those 2 together, and that's a plus money bet. Yeah, just a hair over. Still plus money regardless. And that's what I got for you on this night 2. You're probably thinking, like, come on, what about Ottawa, Carolina? Ottawa's one of those Sabres teams. They're going to start 8-1, and then they're going to be fighting for a wild card at the end of the year. That Brindamore style, you want to know when I hate trying to bet on it? Night 1. You know, they have Stanley Cup aspirations. Are we really going to be seeing that dog in them night 1? Just remember, early season hockey tends to be fake hockey. Got to pick your spots wisely in terms of betting size, especially this early in the season. I am going to go with Edmonton in that one. I do think Boston should beat a team who played last night. You know, if they go 1-1 to start, that's already a huge win for Chicago. But those props that I gave you, I do feel pretty good about all of those. So good luck to all of you. You know, I don't want to say this, but better luck to me. Make sure you're subscribed to the Odd Shopper channel here, obviously. Like this video, comment on this video, say more of that hilarious shit that you guys were saying yesterday. I'll look for funny ones. And I will be back with you guys tomorrow to talk about some Thursday bets. All right? Take it easy, and I will see you then.